Okay, folks, Saturday morning or late Saturday morning here from sunny Florida. And we're going to do another little live session. And it is just before 11 a.m. here, Eastern Standard Time. So maybe you Europeans can get in on it, but just trying to do a little finish up this next to the last mounted guy I have for this army. And the little thumbnail here is where I'm at right now with him. We did his little shield, and now we just need to do his turban and his COVID mask and boots and the straps on the horse, and we're pretty much good to go with this guy. So let's go ahead and get started. So this is where we left it last time. Looks like it's dried out a little bit, the wet palette, but I think we'll be okay using it. I did a little bit of a supply run this morning because I'm getting really close to this project being completed, which means that I'm going to need to gloss coat and flat coat these figures. So normally what I use is Model Master products from Tester's Model Master Spray. And it just seems like every time I go and buy them, they've rebranded them, and now I think they're owned by Rust-Oleum or something like that. So the look of the container is definitely changed. So this, I guess, is the equivalent. Now it's called Auto Lacquer. It's still Model Master. Auto Lacquer Clear Gloss, and the flat coat is Auto Lacquer Clear Flat. So we're going to be using these two products when we're done with the rest of these mounted figures. So they'll get one coating of the clear gloss, one coating of the clear flat, and then they'll get the brush on flat, which, as I mentioned before in earlier videos, is this stuff right. Well, it's a brush on lacquer coat. Oh, here it is. Here it is. Flat clear lacquer finish. We'll brush this on at the very end. So it's going to have 3 coats of clear coat, so to speak. So that should give it a lot of protection from handling. If you've watched any of my painting videos, you know that the paint I apply is really thin. So it's not very thick at all. So need to protect that. All right, we're going to put these away. I knew I was really low on them. They're not really effective price-wise because now they're gone up to, I remember when these things were like $3. Now they're $6.29 US plus tax. Of course, you can use a coupon to get a bigger discount on them, but yeah, they've gone up in price quite a bit. All right, so let's see if we can pick up where we left off here. Let's lose the glasses because we don't need those right now. So we've got to paint his turban and his mask there. So let's. We're gonna need this brush and we're gonna need this brush. All right. All right, I'm actually going to have to add a little bit more water. You can see I don't really prepare for these things. I just kind of wing it. So I'll be right back. We're going to add a little bit of water to this wet palette to make sure that this paint, the paper ends up sticking down. We don't want it to ruffle up on us. Okay. All right, so we get this striped guy. We might add a little bit of color with a mask. Let's see if I got any masks with a little bit of yellow in them, because that looks like a candidate for that. Want to make sure that we have kind of a mixed look. That's probably a decent type color. If something has a little bit of yellow to it, we're going to use this dark sand as the base. And we have any live browns left here that we can reuse? There's no reason to put more down if we don't need to. I think there's some over here. Let's see how we're doing. Just check it out. Yep, we're still good. We don't need a whole lot. So there we go. This is the chocolate brown that was left over there. Okay, let's do the shade coat on here. We're gonna paint the whole mask in this color right here. Okay, and a little bit more of the sand. I'm gonna bring that up. Looking forward to starting on the next army a little bit more than I am seeing these guys in combat. You would think that after spending this amount of time painting this army, that I would be excited to use them in battle. And nah, you know, after you spend this hundreds of hours working on an army, you're almost like tired of seeing them. No, know if that makes any sense, but um, yeah, I'm ready to move on to something else. So, almost got narrowed down what I'm going to do next. and kind of excited about doing the armies that are a little crappier. Not interested in doing armies that are um, very powerful. Had a fun time the other day with Mitch when we did the Soloy silliness. So kind of hooked on doing some of the more basic armies. So let's go ahead and we got any white left? Yeah, we do. We got some. It's alive over there. And a little bit more. Saw a post that somebody put on one of the sites I frequent, talking about it was a Kickstarter made by Forged in Battle figures, which I don't have any of. They're relatively new. They're only maybe 2 or 3 years old, and they started working on all their figures um, after I had so many. So I really have no need for any, but they look beautiful, and they just announced that their Dark Ages figures are going to be up for the regular public ordering them shortly. So that's kind of cool. They have pictures of them on their site finally, and some of their figures look pretty cool. Um, some of them more cool than others. So um, I just have so many. I mean, like their Normans look really cool, but heck, Mitch has an army that's completely done of Normans, and I could probably do 4 Norman armies worth of figures with the ones that I have left over. So there's just no reason to go and throw money at a problem, regardless of how much I like them. It's not like I like them that much more, but they are some nice looking figures. They do come many figures to a pack, which is okay for some troop types. Um, but yeah, that's been waiting to see what those look like. I don't do pre-order stuff. Um, I don't need to save the money as much as I need to not buy. So I would rather not buy for something. Not what the hell am I trying to say? I would rather not pay. I would rather wait and then end up paying more money for them, but then make sure that when I bought them, I actually did something with the figures. Then just get the figures really cheap and kind of impulse buy and end up being figures that I don't need. I went through my figures that I have. here a box, and I almost couldn't pick it up. I mean, it was every bit, and that's not all of them. It was every bit of probably 50 pounds worth of lead. I mean, I could pick up 50 pounds. I'm just saying it was difficult to pick up in the container it was in. So, um, okay, I think we're good with that that type of a mask color. We're going to go over white for the turban. We're going to go black for it, so it's got a little bit more of a gray tinge to it. I don't want to do the turban and the face mask in the same color, just so you can add some variety. It doesn't look like they're part of the same thing. Um, a couple of these figures with how they are um, molded, it's very difficult to tell where one piece of cloth ends and the other one begins. So it took a little bit of figuring out before I could start painting them and feel like I was painting the right thing in the right place. Um, and that was the case with some of those Falcon figures. I couldn't tell whether the way they had done their wrap was all part of the same piece of cloth, and it should have been the same color. The part that went around their neck should have been the same color as the top piece, or it was two different ones. I ended up being fine with how it turned out. So, okay, so we're going to, and what's going to happen is when we do this, this is going to throw more of a gray or a bluish tint as opposed to the face mask, which has a little bit more of a brown tint. Um, but yeah, if you guys haven't checked out our videos, we just did a new video last night. 4 battles from the Diadiki. I couldn't remember how exactly you said those guys, and when I was on video, I couldn't figure out how it was. There's a lot of things going on when we're filming. You know, we're worried about making sure the power's connected, the microphone's working or not working, and I get sidetracked on stuff like that. But Alexander's successor, Alexander's successors, the Diadiki, and we did 4 battles, all in one 3 hour plus video. I've got a new phone now that is kick-ass and was able to export. It took a little bit of time, but it exported it without a problem. So um, we're moving forward there with more videos. But that is a hoot. Check that out. There's more of that series to come. And we're just kind of going sequentially through the years. So the matchups that happen earlier are the ones that we've already done. So we've done 4, and I suspect that we'll probably have 3 or 4 battles in this series of 4 matchups or something like that. I suspect that that's what's going to be the case. I haven't actually done a count yet. But yeah, there's going to be more to come. Those are fun armies. They're relatively popular armies that people have, and some people struggle with pike, using pike. Some people just flat out don't like pike. I think they're kind of cool, but that's me. So. So check out that video if you haven't seen it yet. It's just got uploaded this morning. We played last night, so. Not going to tell you who wins. Originally, what we were going to do is this army I'm painting here, finish it up, and film some of their battles against their enemies. We still are going to do that. We're just not going to be able to do it until they're done. You know, this just takes time. So, and I painted more this week than I have in as long as I can remember. So It's just one of those things. It takes me about 4 hours to figure. Maybe a little longer if I'm trying to figure out what colors to use, which is really the longest part of the whole process. Okay. So we got his little turban thing going on there. We got boots to do and a saddle and some horse strapping. So um, I want to do something a little bit different with the horse strappings. I want to use like a blue gray, just something to add some color in there. Maybe something like this might be all right. I call this pale blue, but it's not very blue at all. It does have some blue tint to it. So this is Yahoo 906. Okay, pale blue. So there is a little bit of blue to this, but it's not much. I mainly wanted to introduce a little bit of that coloration so that you got a whole bunch of browns and stuff like that in the figure. It kind of they can complement each other. That's really the part that takes the longest, is trying to figure out what you're going to paint and what color. Actually, doing it is not that time consuming. It's the figuring out what you're going to do next. part. Okay, so that's where we're at so far with that color. So we're going to go ahead and bring it up, and we'll see more of those blue properties, the light blue properties of that color as we go. And let's add a little bit of white to that. I'm really groggy today. I'm gonna have to go pour myself some iced coffee, and I'll be right back. Zoom this out a little bit. Oh, I'll be right back, folks. Okay. Liquid motivation, hopefully. Need to power through this guy, and I'm fading. I stayed up too late last night, and I woke up too early. I have an alarm set for 5 a.m. every morning, even on the weekends. And I've been waking up most of this week somewhere between 40 to 15 minutes earlier than my 5 a.m. alarm. And I've been going to sleep around 11:30 or so. So I'm not getting a whole lot of sleep. I don't really care to sleep. It's a kind of a waste of time. You kind of need to, but I got stuff to do, man. I want to finish these guys up. I'm ready to start working on the next army. I've been daydreaming about who I'm going to paint next for a while now. And I do need to think about it quite a bit because I had a little bit of white and it's just going to turn into an off-white color. Well, is that okay? Yeah, I don't have that many straps that are that color. That'll be fine. We're going to go with that. What I mean, I have to think about it carefully is because whatever I commit to, I'd like to finish. I don't want to start in the middle of a project and then just not finish it. But I'm committing to probably somewhere between 4 and 5 months of working on a certain particular army. So I want to make sure that it's not something that's going to peter out. I probably should go back and I have probably a half dozen of armies that are not 3.0 compatible. They're 2.2 compatible. And I probably should go back and retrofit those by painting a couple of stands here and there to make them 3.0 compatible. But honestly, I I'm probably not going to do that. That's probably what I should do. The other thing I should probably do is go ahead and finish up my early Russians. I have the whole army done except maybe 7 mounted figures, 7, 8, something like that. Um, and I think there's 12 mounted figures total. And let's see how many I've got painted. One, two, three, four, five. So I've got seven more mounted knights to paint. Um, that's probably what I should do next. But that doesn't mean that's what I'm going to do. You know how it is. If you know what's good for you, you should do this. Well, damn it, I don't want to do what's good for me. So um, I could conceivably work on two things at once. I know other people do that. I don't know that I'm going to be successful doing it. I'm just ready to start working on the next project. Now, the next project, I haven't finalized exactly what it's going to be, but I can tell you it's not going to be a power army. If you've watched any of the videos that we've done recently, we did this thing called Soloy Silliness, and we've done Wimp Wars and stuff like that. And it's definitely going to be an army that can do maybe both events or maybe just one. But um, it's definitely going to have some Soloy in it. They paint quicker, and also they're unusual. And man, some of those battles are a lot of fun. You guys have seen. You guys can go to your local players and play the normal battles that are, Carthaginians and Romans and those kind of things. The ones that you're going to see in like tournaments and stuff. The more common ones. I'm kind of excited about doing something unusual that maybe you don't see. So it's definitely. I haven't narrowed down exactly what it's going to be, but more than likely it will be an army that is not very powerful. Let's put it that way. So excited about that. And I may have to buy some figures to finish them up, but I am not going to do that initially because pretty much whatever army I do, I have at least, I'd say 70% of the figures. It's usually a mounted issue, I don't have the mounted figures there. So, Brent Rogers from Deutschland. Hello, Brent. Have a beer for me. I hear they have beer over there. So, hey, you picked the right year to not be in the U.S. Although, because you're not missing anything here. I mean, unless you wanted to like burn things and like protest and spray paint on buildings, I don't think you can get away with that in Europe as well. Maybe in Germany, but I'm glad you didn't get to miss out on anything by doing that. So that kind of worked out for you. So. Okay, Luca Bordone, a big ciao from Italy. Well, ciao back at you. Yeah, Italia. Perfect. Uh, Speaking of Italy, man, I would love to paint some of those Legio Heroica figures. They're just gorgeous. But, shipping. Even without this COVID nonsense thing going on. Before that, so let's go to February. To the United States, shipping from the UK is equivalent in price and time from any US distributor. As surprising as that is. As a matter of fact, I get better service from the UK than US suppliers if you've got a mail order. The rest of Europe, however, Italy, Spain, the shipping is just colossally expensive. That doesn't mean I won't buy anything from them. It's just something to consider. Um, and the Legio Heroica and the who's the other one? Merlaton. I love those figures. I've got a fair amount of Merlaton. I don't have any Legio Heroica because Legio didn't come out with figures until I have already accumulated so many other ones. So, like I was mentioning earlier, those forged in battle figures just came out maybe a couple years ago, and they're absolutely gorgeous. But unfortunately, I already have lots of figures for those other armies, and nobody's buying them. So it's not like I can just like, okay, let me sell my old figures and then buy ones I really like, right? Because the whole reason that I ended up getting so many figures to begin with was because people were dumping them and didn't want to paint them. So it was one of those things where I collected so many armies because I'm just not going to. Okay, last Historicon, let me use this as an example. I'm at the flea market. I have no interest in buying Byzantines, none at all. This guy is selling museum miniatures Byzantines for $1 a pack. That's like 70% off, maybe even more than that. Well, I'm not going to leave them there on the table, so I ended up talking myself into getting them. I may never do anything with them, but if I do a Byzantine project, which honestly would work really well for the army distribution that we have because none of us have any Byzantines. But if I was going to do a Byzantine project, um, I've got some cheap figures to mix in with everything else. Now, museum is only one pose per pack, but that doesn't mean you can't mix them in with some other guys. So I'm not afraid of mixing in uh, all kinds of different figure manufacturers, even with some that are less than stellar, with some that are stellar. You know, because figures can be different sizes. That's not an issue for me. So I enjoy mixing them up. That's kind of my own little spin on it. I don't like pre-made army packs because I feel like somebody already took all the fun out of it. I really enjoy putting the army packs together with all kinds of different stuff. As a matter of fact, I stayed up until way too late last night going through the figures that I had to confirm if I had one particular army the figures for, which I did. So. Um, I'm almost certain that I know what army I'm going to do next, but I don't want to announce it until I'm done with these guys. And that'll give me maybe another week or so to cogitate about it. But let's just say I have all of the foot for them. So I may have to get some of them mounted, but I'm not going to purchase that until I have to by earning painting all the foot. And the army is mostly foot. So I'm not going to tell you who that is, but they're not a very good army, and they're not an army that people do all the time. And honestly, I've kind of enjoyed painting this army that I'm doing now because you're painting like commoners. You're not painting uniform guys. You're not painting guys that have really expensive, bright colors. You're kind of trying to make these poor looking people. So it's been a lot of fun trying to do that. And, pulling all the stops and trying to do the faded cloth and that kind of stuff. I've enjoyed that. And whatever army I'm doing next, more than likely will have a fair amount of that. Only because there's not, I'm not going to be painting. I'm not going to be painting 100 Years War French. Okay, I'm going to let you know. Not that there's anything wrong with them, and I have all the figures to do 100 Years War French, and it would actually work okay because I think Mitch and Luke both have 100 Years War English, but that would work well for it. But I don't think I'll be doing the that kind of thing next. Um, like I mentioned a little while ago, I really enjoyed the Wimp Wars and the Saloy Silliness type games that we did. Probably more than anything that we've done in a long time. So it's probably going in a perfect world. I would get an army that would be obviously with swaps for some of the options to be able to do it, but one that would be competitive in the open, one that would be good in Wimp Wars, and one that would be good in Saloy Silliness. Making a Wimp War army and an open army that work together is not difficult. It's the Saloy Silliness because you can the fact that you have to have at least 6 Saloy is you're gonna be a really lame army, so to speak. So, but yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to is painting some lame guys. But hey, they paint quick. You're painting 6 stanzas Saloy. That's 12 figures that usually don't have a lot of things going on for them. Okay, they don't have a lot of details, so they paint up pretty quick. Might even be able to get them down in like 2.5 hours per figure. Um, and bam, paint 12 figures, and that's half the army. So, the quicker I get the army painted, the sooner we can do a video with them. And hey, that's a lot of fun. If you guys haven't checked out my video that we shot last night, we did a 4-pack of battles of the Diadochi. And that's Alexander's successors. We did the first earliest 4 battles with them. Got inspired by a Kings and Generals video that those guys do. They do some excellent videos. And they did a good job of explaining the convoluted Game of Thrones dementia of backstabbing to see who's on what side. And I worked it out that Mitch played one side and I played the other one, and we did 4 battles, and they turned out really cool. I'm not going to tell you how it worked out, but you know, Be interesting to see. There were some interesting battles. Most of them were interesting, which is why we like to film, because there's all kinds of fun stuff that happens unintentionally sometimes, and I would hate to not be able to share that with you guys. Um, so, and that's DBA 3.0. That's what we're playing these days. It's not a perfect rule set. There's, believe it or not, there's quite a few things I do not like about it. But what I do like about it is that lots of people are interested in it. I've played it a long time. It's quirky, but you finish every game. You don't have these games where you're not finished with them and so forth. Um, I've toyed around with the idea of maybe at some point in the future coming up with our own modifications for it that would take some of the abstractness out of it. But I just don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. Um, I've got a pretty demanding job, and I don't really want to do all that kind of stuff. Really, rules are just an excuse for me to paint figures, and have a good time and make crap jokes about what happens to my folks and that kind of thing. So, um, and I'm not really interested in making any money on any rules that I make. So that's just kind of on the back burner. For example, the DBA I think does a really poor job handling horse archers. Um, so if you're playing like the Mongols, they're just not going to behave like you would expect Mongols to behave. And that's just a shame, but that's just something you got to live with. That's mainly the reason why I haven't painted any Mongols, because they're going to not behave the way you would expect them to. But to do that, you're going to have to create some house rules for them. And I don't have the time for them right now when there's so many other things that we could be doing. And I don't really want to fracture everybody. It's not like, well, let's play Tony's way of playing it. That's really not my purpose. I just want to show everybody how much fun we're having with these set of rules. And yeah, you can finish every game. Every game's finished. So we chit chatted and set up 4 battles in just over 3 hours. So we really didn't have to rush much. And yeah, check those out. They might be worth your time. You don't have to watch them. If you guys are a painter, and I do that a lot. I'll put my phone here, put my earbuds in, and I'll listen to it like a battle going on while I'm painting. You don't have to watch it intently. That's why I hardly watch any television at all. Because for me to watch television, I have to intently watch it. Well, who the hell wants to sit there and just look at a TV screen? I know some of you do, but I don't see the purpose in it when I could be having it in the background and I could be, painting something up like this, So, um, but anyhow, you don't have to watch it intently. Um, maybe because it's slow. I don't want to edit anything out, and that just takes up a lot of time doing that. So it could be something you could be listening to in the background or watching in the background while you're painting or doing something else. But check it out; they turned out really cool. And there's some of the successor matchups that you don't expect to see. So in this first set, you're not going to see the Seleucids and Ptolemaics taking it out. That's not there yet. We only got through like the first 2 years of the conflict between the generals. So we're doing still the early stuff. We're going to go sequentially through the enemies, and I suspect we probably have every bit of 16 matchups. So anyhow. Good stuff, good stuff. But we're not beholden to one particular period. It's not like, hey, we like to do successor stuff and we don't like doing Roman stuff. We like everything. So you're going to see Chinese, Romans, um, light troops. Um, we're waiting on somebody else to join us, and then we're probably going to do some knights. I know you guys love knights. I don't like knights. I like to paint knights. I don't like how they leave me hanging when they advance into their doom, but that's part of their troop type. They are fun to paint. They look beautiful. They scare other people. I'm not particularly afraid of them. Um, but yeah, we do all kinds of stuff. So um, we do all kinds of games. So you'll if you see something like, if you don't like Wimp Wars, just wait a week. There'll be something else. It's not like we're going to do a ton of Wimp Wars in a row. These successors, we probably are not going to do them back to back to back to back. we're probably going to wait a few weeks and then do another one just to mix up the content. There might be, we don't want to put out videos on Alexander's successors for like 3 months straight. And then people that just aren't interested in that at all have to wait 3 months to get some content that they may be interested in. So just kind of like at a convention, you want a variety of different topics so it'll interest different people. Anyhow, yeah, so we got the saddle done. What else we got? We got some boots, and then we got socks to put on the horse, and we're about done with this joker. Okay, and then we can move on to the last guy. One figure closer to starting the next the troops. So yeah, after all these guys are done, the process will be spray everybody. Take them outside, not in here. Spray them with a gloss coat. Wait for that to dry. Spray them with a flat coat. Wait for that to dry, and then brush on a flat coat. Then after that's complete and they're fully dry, we're going to pop them off their stands. This is 4 stands worth, and we get to organize them how they're going to look the best within the stand, and then epoxy them down. And that's the part I really, really like to do, is putting all the pieces together. And I'm probably going to do a video of that because it's not difficult. It's just kind of methodical. Like if I was going to do that right now, okay, I know I've got 4 stands. This is one particular pose. This is another particular pose. Come on, I have more. Oh, there's one left to paint. Okay, that's another one. And there's one of the poses on the command stand. Okay, so that's kind of a mute point. So the other stand won't have one of these guys. Okay, I'm giving away all my secrets here. And so this guy's running with this. So one of those will be on that stand. One of these will be on this stand. One of these will be on this stand. And there's one more, right? One of these will be on this stand. Okay? See, this is so much fun. I couldn't wait to do it. This is an Old Glory Horseman, so we're going to put one on that stand. We're going to put one on this stand. We're going to put one on this stand. And we're going to put one on this stand. And then this stand will have 2 Old Glory Horsemen. Well, there's one pose of Old Glory Horseman that's different. He doesn't have a mask. Okay? So this figure will be on the stand that has 2 Old Glory Horsemen. And that's how I do it. That's how they're going to be. Now, they may not be this particular one. Like I may end up looking color-wise and swap them out and swap out what position they are, whether they're in the middle or on the end or whatever. But that's how I would go about laying these guys out, after they're sealed and everything. And once I get the look that I'm looking for, we're going to glue them down with epoxy and do the base material. And then it has to dry overnight. So there's some overnight drying periods where at that point I can start, rubbing my hands and looking forward to maybe putting the next army together so we don't lose any time between them. But that's how you go about that's how I go about putting all these guys together. Okay. And yeah, they wouldn't be in the same thing because you want to mix them up. Like one of these guys will end up being on the end, another one will be in the middle, another one will be on the other side, just so they look all different. But we won't do that until they're done. But you could tell I couldn't wait to do that. That's the fun part. That's the fun part. So now I just got to find the guy who was finishing up. Where'd you go, dude? Here he is. Okay. Yeah, so this guy's got a reddish shield, for example, okay? So when I put him on a stand, I'm not going to put him with a guy that has a ton of red on him because then it's going to look weird. You're going to have another stand that doesn't have any. Like this guy's got a red head wrap, okay? Do you have another guy that has a lot of red? No. Okay, but these 2 guys will probably not be on the same stand so that you can mix up the color thing. Just little things like that are kind of obvious, but I haven't really verbalized why I'm doing it. But it's just one of those things that will make a difference. I did the same thing with it. Well, all this foot got all painted, and I put them all together. All these foot figures, once they're all together, there's a smorgasbord of different colors. They turned out really well. I think I liked how they turned out. They got the look I was looking for, so I was happy with them. So Looking forward to taking these guys in a battle and getting hosed. But as what may be surprising to you is I'm not really excited about playing them, and that's because I'm tired of looking at them. Yeah, I know. Let me mail them to you, right? So you'll take good care of them. No, it's not like that. It's just I've spent 200 to 300 hours looking at these figures already. I'm ready to do something else. So okay, so we've got boots. All right, so let's see what kind of boots that we have already. Well, he's kind of has a light tunic, so we're going to go with dark boots. And we're going to go ahead and grab one of my favorite paint, probably my favorite paint brands. Coat the Arms. Okay, Coat the Arms. And I understand these are the same people that make the pots for the Foundry paint system. And I want to say they all used to manufacture the Citadel paints from the 1980s. This stuff flows great. Really, really good. Unfortunately, unfortunately, they're difficult to open once the little tab on the back here breaks. And also, unfortunately, there's not a store I can go and get some. Not here, anyways. I mean, I can mail order them, but much like brushes, I don't want to buy paint sight unseen if I'm adding new colors. I mean, if you're rebuying a paint that you use all the time, I mean, you know what that looks like. But I don't want to add paints to sight unseen. So, but anyhow, yeah. So let me catch up a little bit on the chat here. Brent had to go to dinner. Okay, Avita Zane. Keep up the good work. Love watching your videos while I paint. Well, thank you, Brent. Keep painting even though you're over there, and it's therapy. You know, I think it's therapy. So it's all is good while you're painting. So yeah, this is another reason to do my videos. This is my little way of just giving back. I mean, I don't claim to be some kind of a genius, but maybe I'll touch on something that you guys might find useful. Hopefully you do. And yeah, with my own little niche thing, like I don't paint 28s. Okay, I never have. So if you're looking for something that's specifically 28 based, um, yeah, I'm not really helpful with that. I never played the fantasy or games workshop type stuff, so I didn't get sucked into that scale. I'm really a 20 millimeter scale gamer originally. Um, so I got into the 15s because of this silly game, you know. But and the variety that there are of figure manufacturers, which there's just a plethora of. So, which is great because I want different looking guys in my army. Now, if you're painting Roman legionnaires, I'm perfectly happy with them being all having the same look. Now, normally I would take some of this paint and put it on the palette and then close it back up, but I'm going to be here so little about a time, I'm not concerned about it drying out on me. We're just going to paint around the stirrups. Okay, just going to go around the stirrups. Avoid that. Not go all the way up to where the stirrup is, but leave a little bit of the black in between them. I don't black line. I like how the black line effect is. I'm just leery of doing something that takes my painting even longer to do. And I want at this point my painting style has been pretty consistent for the last uh, 20 years or so. So I don't really want to mess with that. It's bad enough that the first 3 or 4 armies, no, it's actually more than that. The first 5 or 6 armies that I painted for DBA used a different basing material that I used to use. So I don't want to, and now I'm in the cogitation where I want to upgrade them to 3.0, but I don't want to have to rebase them. So, and I also don't want to add figures to them, and then the basing is of a new method, and I don't remember how to do the old one, to be honest with you. It involved Elmer's glue and actual sand and that kind of stuff. It was before I discovered this awesome stuff right here, the Liquitex resin sand. So that's what I use now, and I'm really happy with it. And I'm not going to go back to doing it how it was before. So, yeah, so that's the kind of dilemma that I'm in. is that I don't know what I'm going to do about like my Marian Romans, for instance. Okay, my Marian Romans are done, and my Armenian. Well, my Armenians are complete. They have no options, but there's more options now in 3.0 for the Marian Romans. So I'm just going to leave them as is, or I have to rebase them all, which I really don't want to do. I don't want to do them because I've got other things I could be doing. I mean, why go back and retrofit an army if there's new armies I haven't painted? I mean, really? I mean, I've got like 500 more armies to build in the list. I know I'm not going to get to them, but the whole point is, why fix old stuff if you could be building new things? So, um, and on top of that, some of these armies, the people I play with already have. They didn't at the time because I didn't have a local game brute. But I used to only be able to play this at conventions, and thank God that's not the case because I would be miserable. I'd be miserable if there was no new games on the horizon. Um, I can't just paint just to paint. As much as I like painting, that's just I get side. I'll find something else to do. You know. Um, okay, so that's done with the coat the arms. Okay, and I'm gonna do the stirrups here. I did I think at the beginning that the stirrups all the time were all I used them all in metallic color to begin with, and now I've kind of gone to more of a tan thing. Um, oh well, you develop and you change. At the first courses I did, I think first couple of armies, I didn't do a single mane that wasn't a black mane because it didn't look right to have a mane. It didn't look right to me at the time to have a mane that wasn't black on a horse, even if it was a brown horse or something like that. So, but you adapt and you change. You try a couple different things, and you're like, "Oh, this doesn't look bad." You see someone else do something, and you're like, "Oh, that looks pretty good. What did you do?" "Oh, you painted the mane in that color. Cool. Let me try it on the next one." That's the beauty of the internet. You get to learn from each other. Sometimes you get to learn what not you're going to do. Like, "Oh, I'm never going to paint them like that." You know. Hey, you got to work. You find out what you like, what works for you. Yeah. So after this, we're going to put some socks on this horse, paint the hooves, and she's good to go. Okay? Let me bring it up one more level. Okay. I think we're good with that. Let's we're gonna do all four socks on this guy. We're gonna do three. This one has all four. One of these over here has just the back legs. Let's do all four. And we're also gonna give him a we're also gonna give him some on his forehead. All right, so let's get the white out. Well, we should still have some that's alive here. Here we go. Let's see what color horse this one is. This guy was. It should be out here. Although I stopped and put him away afterwards. It's not a big deal. We're just going to use black for it. We're going to put the white. It's almost ready to put a new one of these down. My original one came with 50 of these papers. I know you can just use whatever parchment paper. I'm probably not. I like the idea that they're cut to size, and I don't mind supporting the business that makes these little guys. So, um, it, interesting that when I bought this, this is the red grass wet palette, And it says designed in Paris. I think it even says Paris instead of like France. Like, they didn't want to be known as a regular part of France. But, anyways, designed in Paris or France, but manufactured in China. It's like, why couldn't you guys just make it in France? Well, that's another discussion altogether. So, anyhow, kind of cool when you see a hobby product that's made in France. You don't have many French products that come in. I know most of our paints are from Spain. Vallejo are made in Barcelona, I believe. That's correct. And I have some of the army painter, which are Danish. So yeah, and I don't like them as much. I don't like them as much as I bought some at a convention just to try them. They're just too watery. So what happens is the Vallejo, even though you have to cut them with water, I can decide what kind of consistency I want to do. With the War Painter, I'm stuck with that consistency because it's so watery. I'm not gonna want it more watery than it already is. So at least that's my experience with the colors I have, and I have probably 5 or 6 of them. I wanted some variety of different things, so they're not horrible. I'll use them. It's not like they're craft paints. It's not like they're these guys. Okay, but even these cheapo paints, you can get them. You can get something painted that looks really really good, like these guys right here for Gaslands. There's a company called the Phalanx Consortium, and they make these MDF stuff, or as I like to call it, clipboard material. Okay, and they make these little barrier walls for it's a racing Mad Max type of racing combat game. Okay, and I painted up this little barrier thing. This took like no time to do using craft paints. Okay, so I use the craft paints for stuff that's going to cover a long thing. I don't want to use Vallejo for these expensive paints for something that's going to cover a lot of area. So, yeah, they paint up really well. But anyhow, yeah, I got like 20 of them to do, and I did one, and I got sidetracked. So that's a fun game, but unlike DBA, it's going to take a long. It could take a long time to finish a battle, and that's why I think I've stuck with playing DBA. Not because I'm enamored necessarily with the time period. As like I mentioned, I'm more of a World War II gamer, but the World War II gaming I require is a lot of detail. So I'm basically committing to not finishing a battle, and I kind of got hooked on. I kind of got hooked on finishing battles. It's a big part of the enjoyment. You can't say, well, if the game would have lasted one more turn, dude, the game's over with. You got your ass beat. There is no excuses. So it has a conclusion. Question is, do you want to play again? So kind of got hooked on that. All right, so let's add some more white to this. And this does take a while to paint, but the main thing is don't let yourself get sidetracked. Don't get sidetracked by starting a couple of different projects. At least this is my advice to myself, maybe. Don't get sidetracked doing different things. Um, just stay at it. Don't start painting one figure and then move on to another one. Have something to show for it. So that's why I do post quite a bit, mainly to keep myself motivated and on track. So um, it's kind of the same reason that people say if they're going to quit smoking or something like that, they tell all their friends so they they uh, have to take ownership and look bad if they don't if they fall off the wagon, so to speak. So kind of the same thing. Want to let people know what I'm painting. So If I start not doing something different, I gotta answer to my peers. Hey, what happened to the army you were doing? Ah, damn it. Because that's really where your time gets wasted, is getting sidetracked on something else, or wondering what color you're going to paint something. Um, the first one of these armies that I painted back in 2004, as you can see, I paint these guys on like a temporary stand. Okay, this is not what they end up being mounted on. They end up being mounted on DBX basing. So this is just a temporary stand that I put them on so that I can move the figure around and I'm not scuffing up the paint that I've already done. But the first army that I did, I ended up putting them on these stands, and I ended up with a not a marker, but with a pen, writing on there what the dominant color of the figure was going to be. So I was doing feudal Spanish, and if you could find these stands, I reused them all. But if you could find these stands that were from the original one, you could say it'll say blue or red or that kind of thing. And that just kind of gave me a code because I was trying to figure out what was going to be in what color before I painted it. I don't do that anymore. I do it like I'm doing these guys. I just paint a whole bunch of them, make sure that I'm not using repeat horse colors or repeat if it's an army that needs to be irregular looking, and then assemble them at a later date. But anything like that that you end up creating more planning that's unnecessary is that's what really takes your that's what takes up your time. Painting this is just constantly continuing moving forward, so it might take a while, but it's satisfying, and you have something to show for it when you're done. So I think we got a comment that came in here. Let's take a look what we got here. I use prescription bottle. Okay, yeah. Well, I don't have any meds that I take. Maybe I should have meds that I take. I don't need medication if I'm painting. Uh, it's like if you watch any of our battle videos, I'm the one of all of us that gets filmed. I'm the one that drinks alcohol the least. Why? Because I'm not at work. So if I can get by not being at work, not drinking, I don't need to drink anywhere else. You know, if I'm painting, I don't need medication because this is therapy. This is all good as it should be. Maybe if I had a different group of people that I didn't enjoy gaming with, maybe I'd need to drink a little bit more. But yeah, prescription bottle paint, bottle things, those little ones, they would work fine. Um, yeah, anything, and they're reusable. It would be okay to play a game with them mounted on little round things like this. It just the game that I use isn't that way. So yeah, my World War II skirmish guys are all mounted on round stands. It makes sense for things to be mounted on round. If I did, what's that game that's relatively popular that people play in 28s? I know that's not. I kind of left that one out hanging. It's made by Osprey. It's a fun game. Um, See, this is what takes time. Getting sidetracked. Now that's okay. I needed some more iced coffee, and it's not Irish iced coffee. It's just liquid motivation, just caffeine, black, cold. Um, oh man, what is it called? It's one of the Osprey games, and they make. I want to say they make one for the Crusades, and they make another one. Anyways, the name escapes me. I'll be probably 2 hours from now. It'll just pop right back into my head. Um, it's a fun game, and there you can just base them however you wanted. Actually, you could probably play with these stands and just mark off casualties. And it's got a press your luck mechanism. So what's really cool about that one is that you have an activation number for each unit, and it's your turn until you fail an activation. And so it's a press your luck mechanism. It's like, okay, do I want to? I really want to activate these archers, but they're not as likely to be activated than my elite cavalry. So no, it's not men of bronze. It'll hit me. It's a popular. If I say the name of the rules, you'll know what it is. Lion rampant. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Parseval, for the win. Lion Rampant, yes, it's a really cool game. It doesn't have like strict army lists and stuff like that, but it is a fun game, and I would be tempted to play Lion Rampant. If see, I'm not opposed to playing other rule sets, but having spent this much time playing DBA, played so much, and still occasionally getting things wrong, which I don't want to do, it's kind of left a bad taste in my mouth about trying other rule sets and struggling with it again. It's not that I don't want to play other rule sets. I think DBA could have more detail, and I'm a detail guy. Okay, so I would be perfectly fine if these nights are better than the other ones, that kind of thing. I just don't want to do it from the standpoint is I'm going to get shit wrong, and I don't want to get stuff wrong. So I almost wish it was computer moderated. Not because I want to play it on the computer, but well, recently I started playing Field of Glory 2. Had no idea how to play the game. Well, it's DBA-ish, okay, or DBX-ish, so I have a clue. But it doesn't allow you to do things wrong. So that's the good thing about a computer game, assuming it's programmed correctly. You can't play the game wrong. You can't move guys farther than you're allowed to. You may not make the best decisions because you don't know how the game is played, okay, but you'll learn that eventually. But you can't do that with a miniature set, especially if we're doing filming, because as soon as you film something, you've got, and I'm not saying any of the people watching are these right now, there's some people whose purpose in life is to point out things that are wrong. And that's extremely discouraging for those of us that want to do a good job and want to put out more material. It's like, I'm sure there's people that are purposely do things wrong to give yourself an advantage. But if you watched any of the videos that our group plays with, that's not us. I'm very fortunate that I have a group of guys that it's not about winning. Okay, I mean it is about winning, but that's not the prime. I'm struggling here trying to find my white. That's what this is all about. But fortunately I have a group of guys that's not their prime motivation. But we are putting videos out, and we don't really want to put bad information out. But if I wanted to learn another set of rules, Lion Rampant, yeah, I've played it at a convention with 28 millimeter figures. I'm not a 28 millimeter gamer. I already spend 4 hours painting. A figure. I don't want to double that to 8. Here it is. What are you doing over here, White? White segregated himself all the way over there. Get your ass back over here. Anyhow, it's a lot of fun because it has that press your luck mechanism, and our group likes that. We like I like things you can't control because both people are suffering by the same thing. When you have to do a lot of planning in your workday, okay, I like playing games where there's not a whole lot of planning ahead, okay. So, Lion Rampant, yeah, we had some good games of that. And of course, the problem with some of these rule sets, the production value on the rule sets is so nice. I don't want to use the book. It's almost like I got to buy 2 copies. One of them I put on the bookshelf, and I don't do anything with it. The other one gets trashed by being used. Not on purpose, but, things happen. They get dog-eared, that kind of thing. But, yeah, I like Lion Rampant. I like the mechanism, and you could play with DBX size stands. I don't know how big the units are, but I bet if I was using these Warband, okay, I bet one unit would have to be say 2 stands of them. But as you take casualties, you could put little, you knock out one, you knock out a second one, you knock out a third one, then this stand comes off, and then you're down to 3. One of the DBA guys that plays at our convention in Orlando, he put on a Lion Rampant game, and I really enjoyed it. He always puts on good games, anyways. Fun game, fun game. Unfortunately, it's limited to a rather narrow time period of time. That's one thing I do like about DBA is it goes from 3,000 BC to 1500. So. It's not historical, but it's just fun. I think Lion Rampant's probably more historical than DBA would be. Um, Yeah, but same thing with Saga. I never tried Saga, okay? But if Saga was I know some people have done it in 15 millimeter, because what drives Saga is, and I've never played it, but I've watched many videos on it. It's all about managing, just like DVA is about managing pips and what you do with them. For the most part, that's what most of it is. It's like, crap, I need 4 pips. I got 2. What can I do? It's that kind of management. Um, Saga is about how to manage to get what you can with that little board that each army has. Okay. So I like that part. And I love the custom dice. I mean, that's what attracts me to it. But I just don't want to get into 28s. It would just take too long. I'm fine playing it, but you know. Uh, and This is actually the first game that I have played that was a tournament game. I'd never played a game that was a tournament type game before DBA. Um, I I don't mind it because I one of the big driving factors for me as a miniatures painter is to play a game where I can play with my own figures. Because there's my motivation to buy more figures, is to have more things to paint. If I'm just borrowing somebody else's, now there's some people that are perfectly happy doing that. And I've played with other people's armies and I don't have a problem with it now because I have about 30 armies of my own. But the motivation for me as a painter is to have my own guys and to fight with my own guys. Otherwise, why buy figures? Why not just play a computer game? You know, but if you're one of the painters, if you're one of the people that paint, and it seems like every day there's less and less people, be out there painting because there's not that many of us. I'd say of the people that play miniatures, war gamers, I haven't taken an actual poll, but I'd say of the people that play miniatures war games, I would say maybe a third paint. It's certainly under half. Um, and that's fine as long as you come to play a game with a good attitude. Hey, everything's good. If you're an awesome painter but you're a butthole, that doesn't do any good. You know. But Yeah, you got to be nice to the people that you play with, and you got to be. I mean, I'm very competitive with the people I play with, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter whether I win or lose. In a perfect world, I want to win exactly 50.0000001% of the time. I want to win half the time, so I'm fully challenged to the best of my ability. Okay, but I also want to have that one little edge so I can hold that over somebody and make them play a little harder. But I don't need to win every game. It's about the experience for me. So. Okay, so Parsival Trask. I've read some good articles on Saga it's disappearing, being played in 10 millimeters, so 15 would be fine. I would be inclined to play both Line Rampant and Saga in 15 millimeter instead. Yeah, I mean, you could take. See, do I have an example of one? I do. My Athenians. Where are they? My Athenians that never got finished. Do I have one of them? I do. You could take your 15 millimeter figures and mount them on a coin and then magnetize the coin. Got to magnetize everything so these guys don't get beat up. And here's your stand. Makes sense to me. Or, you mount them on DBX basing and mark off the casualties. So, the coin, that's what I started on my 20s. My 20 millimeter figures, my 20 millimeter World War II figures are all mounted on a coin. They're all magnetized. They all have the individual guy's name on here because that's the kind of skirmish I'm doing. You end up managing like a half a squad, not like this is a skirmish game and then I'm running a whole platoon. Like you need to be making, it just depends what kind of decisions you want to be making. I've played a lot of operational scale World War II games. I'm done with that. If I want to play World War II, I want to worry about really close quarters things. But on them, I actually glue them on here and I leave them on the stand that I paint them on. Okay, but I haven't painted any in 20 years because it's as much as I like World War II. I've played a lot of World War II, and you don't finish games. You got to leave them set up, or play something that's very simple. So that's why I'm loving this. Lion Rampant would be the same thing. It'd be cool to do like a Lion Rampant battle and on a scaled down board. Like imagine like on a 30 by 30-inch board that we have there. That would be cool because I know that Mitch and and Luke, we definitely like press your luck mechanisms. Stuff where you just have to try to manage that kind of stuff. I've also looked at To the Strongest, except I don't like the idea of it being on a square board with the movement. But I'd be more inclined to do Lion Rampant. So there's several rule sets out there, but the main thing for keeping me to try doing another one is I just don't want to do it wrong, you know. And I can't read rule books start to finish without having played the game first. I'm one of those people. So, but be it as it may, I will guarantee that there's other rule sets out there that they're written more clearly than the rules we play, because this is a great game, but they're not easy to wrap your head around. So, another reason to do do my videos is to show people to stick with it. It is a great set of rules. So just a shame it couldn't be that much better. But anyhow, that and all the struggles that I've tried doing by figuring out the rules, I don't want to throw all that away. I'm like, I feel like that's an investment. It's almost like getting a PhD in rocket science and then not using that for what you're doing the rest of your life. Maybe that's a good example. So, but I wouldn't mind trying Lion Rampant in 15 millimeter. I know one of the guys in our group, Scott. He's a rules junkie, so I could get him into doing that. But um, it is a fun game. The problem with the World War II stuff that I have is a lot of it involves fog of war. And the way fog of war is handled in those systems is a lot of this, you have to have a game master, which I, for the longest time, game mastered pretty much everything that we ran. And I don't mind it. I enjoy it. But the bad part is that you have once you guys leave the room while I talk to this group, that eats up a crap ton of time. A crap ton of time. Whereas something like DBA and many other rule sets, there's factors that you can't do everything you want, and both sides know that that's what's going on, so they can both be in the same room and still be experiencing the battle. And I think that is a kind of a big turning stone for me that really kind of I turned a corner with that when I experienced that. And it's like one of the best games I've ever played in my entire life. I don't know if you guys play any board games. There's this board game called Squad Leader, and then there's Advanced Squad Leader. It's not that complicated, regardless of what people think, because the rule book's written very well. Okay, and it's a lot less abstract than this that we're doing. But a friend of mine ran a double-blind Squad Leader game. So we're in two different rooms, myself and the other person that was playing. We're in two different rooms. We both have the same map board layout, but we can only see our own troops on that board. We can't see the enemy. When the enemy does get seen because of spotting or they get into this, they never put the counter of the actual unit. They put a question mark, and the game master describes what I'm seeing. It is the most awesome game I've ever played, because you'd end up going up on hills and stuff just so you get a better view, so you get some information on what was going on. So you ended up doing things that you would do in real life. It like forced you to do that because you needed more information, and the only way you could get more information was to do your own type of reconnaissance, regardless of what the scenario was. The scenario might be to go take one building that's over on one side of the map on one area, you end up climbing a hill with like a half squad somewhere else just so you can get a better view of the whole situation. It was really stellar, but it took forever. And it takes someone who's not playing. Um, so I played two or three of those. Definitely the best war game. Somebody says, "Hey, what's the most fun game you've ever played?" That's the one, without a doubt. And it would have been even better if you could have multiple teammates on the same side. So you get some of that camaraderie going, which I happen to enjoy. I don't like Big Battle DBA because it's a different type of game, but I do like having a teammate because it's fun to to um to what's the word I'm thinking of? To motivate them to like roll well and that kind of stuff. I enjoy that. I'm not a sports person, so I can't get into the whole watching sports and enjoying it with your team, with your teammates, that kind of a thing. But that's as close as I can get to something like that. So I do like having the teammate, but I don't like the big battle, the triple size army game. Now Don Harding, he does some campaigns and stuff when we're doing our conventions, and he does big battles, but everybody has their own command. So you'll play on like both sides, and you'll have your 12 elements, or maybe you have 14, or maybe you have 9, and you're playing with your other teammates that also have the same type of command. It's not big battle DBA where you have three of one army, and then you have to make separate commands from that, and maybe you'll put all the knights together. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy the planning within the game. It reminds me too much of work. I've played it before. I'll probably never play it again. I just don't enjoy it. Again, it takes 3 or 4 hours, and you may not get the game done because okay, you guys leave the board while we set up terrain. Lots of people wanted me to ask me to do big battle games. I'm just not going to do them. I just don't enjoy it. Now, when Don Harding does do one of his games, I may film one of those. I mean, I'm not sure when we're going to end up doing one of those because he's kind of on self-imposed lockdown right now. But those are fun because you have the teammate aspect, you have the strategy, light strategy where you could talk about, okay, I'll move these guys in and I'll pin this stuff down. So you have those type of things, but you don't have the overt planning where you have to do all this pre-game planning, and then you end up rolling 2 turns of bad pip dice, and all those hours of planning are out the window. That's too frustrating for me. I'd rather be a little bit more winging it. I don't know if that explains anything, but okay, we got another question. This is from Tram Fan. Okay, do you ever play Hordes of the Things? I do not have Hordes. I have the set of rules. I've played it maybe 3 times. My frustrating part of Hordes of the Things is when DBA 2.2 came out, we were playing that. I had Hordes of the Things, and they did not have the common. What makes DBA difficult is the abstract isms of conforming. It's not the combat factors. It's not the pip things. It's not that beasts are this way or behemoths are this way and spears this way and shooters are this way. That stuff's easy to remember. As a wargamer, you remember what the factors versus mount and the factors versus foot. One day of playing it, you'll know it. You're like a pro of that. What's difficult is the whole conforming and the stuff that just doesn't make sense. You know, the stuff where it's like somebody new comes in and they want to find, they can't understand why a unit of skirmishers that has bows can't fire at a distance. Their combat only takes place when they're actually touching another stand. And it only takes place if they're lined up exactly with another stand. They can't go into combat like that. That's impossible to explain other people why, because to me it doesn't make sense. Okay, that's my biggest problem with DBA and many other games. Art de la Guerre as well. I thought for a while I was going to get into playing Art de la Guerre because it has more detail, right? Some skirmishers shoot at a distance, cool. It still has this whole you have to fight, you have to align perfectly or you can't have combat. That is so difficult to explain to somebody new. It's almost like you're working at a plant or you're working at a business, okay? And you're one of middle management. And your boss comes up with some idea that just doesn't make any fucking sense, okay? But as a middle manager, you have to stand by it. And you have to explain it to other people so that it makes sense. I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I have difficulty. I'm not sold on it. So why should I be a cheerleader for it? Now, that's really my only gripe with this set of rules. And it's not just this one, but I can name probably 6 or 7 that do that lineup thing. Um, um, so anyhow, yeah, what did you say? It makes more sense if you've ever played a game that lets you not line up. I don't know what you're. I don't know what. I know what you're saying, but I don't know what you mean. Um, I have never played a game that is as abstract as this, and you is so fixed on that. I don't know. Anyhow, I'm okay with it, and I've invested thousands of hours in it. But anyhow, that's one of the hardest. That's probably the biggest abstractness of the game. So yeah, I don't remember how Lion Rampant does it, but we did enjoy that Lion Rampant. Again, we played. What did we do? We played Lion Rampant with the same group of people that we played DBA, and it really is about the people. You play with the same people that have this the the same camaraderie. We're going to have a good time playing no matter what it is. Okay. The rules are just, as long as the rules apply to both sides equally, I'm good. Okay. Okay, so Tramfan says DVA makes more sense than impetus in this area. In impetus, you just stop dead at whichever odd single. Sorry, this ends up going away. In impetus, you just stop dead at whichever odd angle the bases make contact. Yeah, Armadi's that way too. And I only played one couple games of Armadi. So some of you guys may or may not be aware of that shit, it's been probably 10 years now. I'm really into the Renaissance period. That's really of anything pre-World War II, the Renaissance period is what I really like. DBA cut short of that by a matter of years. So about 10 years ago, I decided to make a DBA mod for Renaissance called DBA RRR for free, of course. I don't see the point in using somebody else's work and charging for it. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Okay. It's not like I can retire on it and just, do that, but it's just, anyways, for free. About 10 years ago. And people have asked me to do a 3.0 version of it. And I, if I work on the rules, and I've come really close to starting, I've done preliminary type of work on it. It's going to be ideas that come from different rule sets because I think all kinds of different rule sets have good ideas. And by the way, this guy's done now. Okay, so we're gonna keep chatting, and I'm gonna start on this dude here. And you know what? I'm gonna do the thing that is the least amount of difficulty, trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna paint his lance. So while we had this conversation, let's paint a lance, and we still have some of this paint alive. But when I do work on this set of rules, the very first thing it will have is you can get into combat without having to line up. Because that's my biggest gripe with DBA is it's still going to be DBA-ish in a lot of things, and it'll still play the same way. But the biggest problem with DBA is when you're playing, it's a good game, but it just doesn't feel like you're moving cavalry around. It seems very abstract. But anyhow, that may or may not happen sometime in the future. For the longest time, I said I didn't do it because I didn't have a home computer. Now I don't have that excuse anymore. But now I'm doing these videos, and that's kind of my big motivation now is to just kind of get the word out of just having fun and wargaming. So if I start working on that, it's going to cut into my making videos time. So And I'm not a rules guy. I'm really not. I mean, I want to play the rules right, but that's not my, that's not my calling. Um, but anyhow, that's the first thing I would do. I would make contacting easier to figure out and combat a little bit more difficult to figure out, meaning there would be more differences between knights and stuff like that, and it not be points based. In other words, something you can use to maybe recreate historical battles, not necessarily worried about, well, those French knights really aren't equivalent in point value to 13, and the German one should be. I'm not so worried about that, and not super complicated. One of those things where it could be a +1 or a tie could matter. Anyways, just brainstorming, that kind of stuff. And it may or may not come of anything of it, but um, one of the reasons that when I did the earlier set of the rules, we kind of dumbed it down to the point where it could cover all the armies in the period from 1500 to 1700. I wouldn't do that now. It would be you basically would be looking at armies that would be armies that would have arquebuses. Okay, and once muskets start taking over, then those guys would fight each other with a muskets at equivalent thing, and then that sort of thing. So again, I'm just brainstorming here. I, I'm half tempted to start working on some of those armies, but the same thing right now. I think the thing I'm the most useful for and is the most rewarding right now is to make these videos. I'm really enjoying playing with videos. We start working on rules, I can't do that. So um, I'm not dying to paint Renaissance stuff. So if I was, I maybe have a different outlook on it. But anyhow, that's I would change everything in it. It wouldn't be called the same thing either. I would change everything in it that is difficult to explain to new players. I've been a new player before. I've tried to teach the game to people. So any rule where I would be like, well, that's just the way it is and it doesn't make sense to me either, bam, that's going to get changed. That's going to get changed into something that people shouldn't be having that problem. I get asked all the time, um, I've got this army. How do I win with it? That's the wrong question to ask me. Okay? If you don't know how to play, your first thing is it should be easy to pick up the rules, but difficult to master them. And I think that this set of rules is not easy to pick up. As a matter of fact, if it was sitting on a shelf, I don't know how in the hell somebody would play it correctly. And again, it's not necessarily the rules, it's the way they're worded. And they could be 3 times longer. Put one thought in one sentence, not put 4 of them in each one with no punctuation between them. Are they written properly? Some people say that they are. They're just not user friendly, and I can tell you that, and it's just a shame because they're awesome. We've had a ton of fun with them. So if I was going to make a Renaissance rule set, that is first and foremost. The number one thing is anything that you have to explain to people and it's like, well, that's what the boss says, that's what the boss is, like, no, we got to get rid of that. We got to make it easier to understand. Now how to use low countries fighting a low countries army fighting the Spanish incursion properly. Well, that's just a matter of playing multiple games. You'll figure it out. But you need to be able to figure out how to make contact appropriately, overlaps, and that kind of stuff a little bit more easier than it is currently now because there's a lot of gray area. So, don't know if that was helpful, but that's what I'm getting at. So, but they'd be free. I'm not going to take somebody else's work, modify it, and charge for it. I don't care if it's legal. It's the wrong thing to do. Unless I can make my salary doing it. Then all bets are on the table. No, I'm kidding, folks. Nobody's in wargaming makes any money. So, um, besides, they pay you at work to do things that they couldn't get you to do for free. I'm doing this for free, so they don't have to pay me for this. Okay, we got another question. Tram fan, do you have strong views on scale? Do you mean on what scale figures I like, or as far as the scale of the game representational? Yes. Okay, that means both. Maybe. I have a feeling you mean on scale figures. So I didn't grow up with 28s. Okay. Um, I am not. I don't like 28s. I'll be honest with you. But I don't like 28s. All right. I've played games with 28s. I don't want to collect 28s because they're expensive. But the main reason I won't want them is they're going to take me twice as long to paint or more. Doesn't matter that they're more expensive. It doesn't matter that they take up more space. They're going to take longer to paint. I don't mind playing with them. I've played many games with 28s, with other people's 28s. Um, we're going to use 28 millimeters as an example. There used to be not a lot of variety of figures. I think that that's kind of disappeared. There's a lot of people, they talk about the hobby aging. I'm still one of the youngest guys that does historical wargaming, and I'm pushing 50. I don't feel like it, but I started in the mid 80s, and I was the kid from high school, and everybody was in their 20s and 30s. So, yeah, I can see it graying. I don't know if that's ever going to change. Um, so I think the 28s grab a lot of people that are used to doing the whole Warhammer thing. I was never gravitated to the fantasy stuff, but what I really don't like is the codex mentality. Okay, when I started wargaming, there was no one that made the rules and the figures. So, in other words, um, you either made rules or you made figures. But the problem with making both is, and I understand how they're trying to make money. I mean, I get it; it's a business. Is kind of like Flames of Wars does it. They will, and Games Workshop, they'll release more figures, new rules. Oh, we got all this. I want all of the rules. I don't mind that the rules cost $200, but I don't want to wait 4 years to play Japanese when the rules only come up with Anglo-Saxon type stuff, and I've got to wait 6 years to do it. I'm more likely to just wait until all the armies are out and then get involved in it. So I never understood the codex thing of some of the things being on there. 28s, there's a lot of variety in figures in 28s now. I think it's really popular. A lot of them look awesome. I mean, they're like tempting me to buy them. Um, and I just don't want to get into them because I don't want to spend 8-10 hours painting a figure. They'd be beautiful, but I don't want to. Okay, if I did do 28s and I was going to use 28s for a DBX type game, first of all, I would base them all on round, and I would base them on a stand that you can take the little round things out of. So now I can use them for skirmish or for a mass army type thing. Okay, first of all, that would be a no brainer. So I don't really care for 28s because they take longer to paint. Now, what I really don't like is I don't like plastic figures. Okay. I don't think plastic paints as well as this, and I like the heft. And I used to be a modeler, of painting 1/72nd scale, 1/35th scale modeler. I don't like how light those figures are. Um, so I don't like plastic figures at all. Now, other scales, 6 mil. I think DBA on 6 millimeter figures on regular 15 millimeter DBA stands would look much better. However, there just isn't enough figure variety. And I don't want to paint a bunch of guys that are like, I actually consider doing Renaissance in 6 millimeter scale. They just don't make some stuff. I mean, if I'm going to paint knights, like let's say I'm doing knights and I'm going to do, I want to do French Catholic, and I want to do Huguenots, and I want to do the Spanish. I want to do Italian Wars, French, and Low Countries Dutch. I'm going to be using the same knights for everybody, the figures of knights. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't make me want to buy more because it's just painting. Now I get to paint them a little differently, but the figure variety isn't there in 6 millimeter, but I think it would look great on these larger stands because you could put the knights in a wedge and stuff like that. That would be really good. Now, it would be a bitch to get in between all the stands to put the ground material so it would look right. But I have seen people do it with Napoleonics and stuff. It looks impressive. Okay, so 6 mil would be really cool. 10, ten's neither here nor there. I think the variety in 10's worse than 6, isn't it? But I did 15s because when I started doing this, everybody was doing it in 15. So, like, let's say I'm a 28 millimeter player. Okay. I'm into 28. Remember, I was doing 20s before that. Well, nobody does 20s. They don't even make figures in 20s unless you're going to do 1/72nd scale plastic. Okay. Which, again, we have a heft issue. And they're bendy. So the paint's going to come off of them and stuff like that. It's going to pop off of them. So you kind of have to go with the crowd that you're playing with. Everybody's playing in 15s. You want to play, you got to do 15s. I mean, unless it's something you're just absolutely opposed to. Okay, either that or you got to start painting armies for everybody else to use. Like if you got a group of guys that are doing Saga, and I want to do Saga in a scale that's not 28, I need to be prepared to build 4 or 5 armies and have them use my army. Okay, that's how it's going to work. So. Anyhow, so do I have strong preference of scales? Yeah, I guess I do, but I understand that people like different skills for different reasons. They grew up with Games Workshop. Um, I didn't, and I really don't like plastic. I don't like plastic. Some of the plastic stuff looks fine, but it's just not for me. But that's why they make so many different figures because you don't have to tell every. I'm a big I'm a big I'm a big fan of freedom. You don't want to do something, don't do it. I'm not telling you to do anything, but there are. But I purposefully would avoid 28s just for the simple fact that it just take way too long to paint for me. Okay, not that there aren't some good figures out there. So um, I don't know if that answers your question. Let's see. Scale of miniatures. I remember when 28 used to be 28, 25 millimeter, and now they're closer to 32. Okay, yeah, that was before my time. 15 seem to be the best when it comes to historical. Yes, I have 10 millimeter fantasy. There is a cottage industry for War Master proxies. I heard good things about War Master. I never got a chance to play it. 28 millimeter for all the way for skirmish though. So if I'm going back to doing World War II, I am 20 mil all the way because every vehicle is available in 1/72nd scale. And it's not about playing a game with a ton of vehicles because when I do skirmish, it was a couple half tracks or that kind of thing. But everything's available in 20. But I live in the U.S. and 20 millimeter is not a thing here. It's a British thing. But like I say, UK is the land of toys. That's where every single figure manufacturer that I like seems to be in the UK. So yeah, if I was going back to 28 to World War II skirmish, I'm not doing 28s. I'm doing 20s, and I've got so many that it's out of control. How many? I don't have any more to paint. I'm never gonna buy any more, especially since one of the figure manufacturers that I have, I realized, well, I got out of it for so long. Probably 2004, I started doing DBA, and I didn't look at 20 millimeters again until maybe 2 years ago. And so many figures I have are no longer made. There's one company called used to be called Drew's Militia, and it was a guy named Andrew who was a sculptor. And I remember in 2004, that's what I was buying was 20 millimeter, and they came out with a new Stalingrad line. And because I'm naming individual figures, I don't want two in the same pose if I can avoid it. Okay, because I want them to have a personality, almost like a role playing game, if you will. And so the Stalingrad came out, so I bought one pack of every German they made, which was 20, 50, there are 4 or 5 figures in each pack. I bought 20 packs of the Germans and the 20 packs of the Russians. Okay, so I'm saying I love the Eastern Front because no matter who you are, you get to play a bastard. You get to play a bad guy no matter how you're playing. So that's why I like the Eastern Front. Not that I don't do Western Europe and other kind of things as well, but big Eastern Front gamer, mainly because of that. And so I had everything in their figures packs when they came out. So a couple years ago, I started getting back to my 20 millimeter roots to see what was going on. And all those figures that I had just purchased, they don't exist anymore. Like the molds apparently got bad and they're no longer in production. So I had things that were almost like a collectible and I didn't even know it. And fortunately, I bought them all. And yeah, they're for me if I ever get around to doing it. But we were coming up with our own set of rules at the time, which was extremely anal retentive, a buddy of mine. And they released a set of rules that was scaringly close to what we were coming up with. It's almost like, were you guys listening to what we were doing? But they had the hit chance and the effect rolled in one die roll together, lumped together in one die roll. Name of the game is called Face of Battle. Okay, and it's really small scale stuff, and you basically are running like a half squad, random activation, that kind of stuff. You do have stuff for leaders. A really good game. And we didn't play a whole lot of it because it took a long time to set up, and my buddy moved out of town as soon, maybe 6 months after the rules came out. So if we'd have had that now with a crew now, we would probably be playing it a lot. But I don't think I'm going to go back to playing World War II skirmish. It's too much. Make the buildings and look at, and there's some people out there that put some games on that really looked like dioramas, and that's what I want my game to look like. I don't want to cut any corners to look on it, because you'll look at these War Games Illustrated magazines, and the games that you see just make you salivate, and that's kind of what I want, or I don't want to play it at all, So it's just probably better if I just kind of leave that alone. No big deal. So, but I don't know how we got on that, but on that scale. But the 20s is really what I liked. It was mainly for the tie-in for the vehicles. So, only period I've seen in 20s is World War II. Yeah, for the most part, there's a company called, I'm not going to say who they are because I could get it wrong. Is it New Line? Anyways, maybe Tumbling Dice. Anyway, they make 20 millimeter ancients, but they'd make like Greeks, and that was it. So, yeah, I don't know why they settled on the 20 millimeter for World War II. I got hooked on that scale because of the vehicle tie-in, and my favorite sculptor of all time was a 20 millimeter sculptor. Even though he's passed away, 30 years ago now, probably. The guy was prolific. His name was Dave Alsop, and he did some. Just the style that his stuff is done is just, it's like realistic, but a little bit of oil painting looking as well. So they look like, I don't even know how to describe it. I should do a video just on his work, but anyways, awesome sculptor. And he did stuff in 15s as well. So like he did some sculptings for Old Glory. So I understand that he's got some Napoleonics and Civil War stuff that he did the sculpting for. But one thing I had no idea of is eventually the molds will die. They'll make molds, and eventually you can't make any more figures out of the mold, and they either have to refurbish them or come up with substandard figures that have a shitload of flash. So I think that there is a lifespan on how many times a mold can be reused, and that's happened to a lot of his stuff. But the stuff I fell in love with was the old combat miniatures. It was a combat miniatures line here in the US, and he sculpted all of those. And I want to say before that, it was in the UK, known as Hotspur. Anyways, Dave Alsop sculpted all those. Love his figures. There's still no figures I like better than those, by anyone in any scale. So, big fanboy, I guess. But anyhow, I digress. Okay, so we got the lance done. Let's keep moving forward with stuff that we know. Okay, just check Uline. They have a wide range of 20 millimeter ancients now, along with ACW Napoleonic. See, I'm so full of useless information. I'm going to end up forgetting my wife's birthday, but I'm going to remember that New Line makes 20 millimeter ancients, something which I have no interest in. What can I say? I surf a lot, or I have surfed a lot. Yeah, I don't know what they look like. I do not know what they look like, but I do remember seeing them. One thing I mentioned, going back to scale, I mentioned one time to someone, I said, if 15 millimeter figures cost what 28s cost, and 28s cost what 15 millimeters, in other words, in a ridiculous upside down bizarro world, if 28 millimeter figures were about $2 a piece and 15 millimeter figures were $8 a piece, I'd still paint 15s because it's not the price of the figure, it's my time painting them and getting them finished. With a 15 millimeter figure, I'm spending most guys. I mean, you could spend some guys that are easier about 4 hours a figure painting them. Okay, so the figure is costing me less than 50 cents an hour. Okay, for enjoyment of, assuming there's any enjoyment in painting, there is, but it's about 50 cents an hour. Okay, so it's really inexpensive. What is a waste of money is buying something and not doing anything with it. Okay, which I have extra stuff that I don't use as a war gamer, as all war gamers do. As most war gamers, I am a minimalist, okay? Because I've either gotten rid of some stuff that I don't use anymore or just never went that crazy. I mean, I started when I was in high school, so I had no money. I got a lot of extra stuff. I mean, I have 15 millimeter figures unpainted. I probably have 80 pounds of them, maybe more, okay? But I got them all at a garage sale, and I'm basically not buying anymore, okay? My next army, I could probably paint 75% of the figures with figures I already have. I probably have to buy some mounted figures, and I'm not going to buy them until all the other guys are almost done so that I can keep myself on a short leash, okay? And that's just something I just do for myself because it just feels bad when you throw money at a problem and the problem doesn't get fixed. And the problem in this case is actually painting something. And I don't want to do that anymore. I've done that plenty in the past and it feels crappy. Okay. Um, it's like buying a cell phone that's expensive and then never using it, buying a computer and never turning it on. Like, come on, folks. You need to be able to do stuff. So, anyhow, yeah, I'm all set figure wise for the long time, but a lot of war gamers just keep buying and buying and buying and buying and buying, and you just get to the point where it's like, what I'll do, and this is why I remember that New Line did that, is I surf a lot, so I'll get this idea of, let's say I'm looking at, I wonder if I should build an early samurai. So what I do is I go online and I pretend like I'm going to build an early samurai army and do one of my most favorite things to do, which is look at figures, different manufacturers, how would make up the stands. So I'd go to Eureka. I'd look at the figures that Eureka makes because Eureka makes some early samurai. And I would actually even go to the point where I would make a list and everything and then just not buy them. Because in my mind, I'd be like, okay, let's say I just place the order and they get here in a week. Am I really going to do anything with them? No, you jackass. You bought them for no freaking reason whatsoever because you wanted to, the thrill of buying them. So I've kind of, over the years, kind of talked myself out of buying things on a whim. Okay? If I need something, you buy it. If my light dies on me, I need my light. I don't care that I may have to spend $200 on my light. I'm going to get my money's worth out of it. I don't want to spend $55 for an army that I'm not going to touch. I've done that. It doesn't feel any good. Um, and I may be the exception. Okay, I may be the exception to it. And but there's some things that you could spend your money on that kind of puts things in a perspective. I didn't want to buy this paint palette. This thing costs like $50, which I think is overpriced. Okay, I bought it 2 years ago. I've gotten my money's worth out of it. It was the best thing I bought. Something like this. Something like an light, something like your paints, the sooner you buy them, the sooner you get to use them. The last thing you want to do is buy something cool like this on your deathbed, okay? Because you never got to use it all throughout your life. You want to go ahead and use it, find out if it's something that you're going to use, and then you get to enjoy it in every army you do. Terrain, okay? If you're playing DBA armies, if you're playing a DBA type game or any other kind of game. Build terrain because you get to use the terrain with every army you're using. Like if I'm building these Arabs, well, if I end up doing something in the Hundred Years' War, well, I'm not going to use them. But I may be using the same hills or forest or something that I'd be using with these guys. So it's all about reusability. Just a way to justify things and maybe feel better about because sometimes what will happen is I'll end up like not making a decision because of being afraid of making the wrong one. Just uh, just go at it, but don't buy stuff that you're not going to do. Don't start buying three armies. I've done it before. That's how that's how I ended up with so much lead. Now some of the lead was. And I'll use this example again. I'll buy some stuff at a flea market that I'm just not going to leave on the. I'm not leaving 150 figures on the table there that I'm moderately interested in that only cost $10. I'm just not going to do it. They're coming home with me. Okay, I'll find a use for them somewhere down the line. And it's those kind of deals where I bought a lot of stuff. Um, one of the vendors that they had at Historicon, I never even went to Historicon until 2006. Didn't even know about it. Okay, I'm gonna take a little break and so I can figure out what color. Let's go ahead and give this guy a mostly white robe because I don't think I have one of those, and then we'll go back to the dissertation, which hopefully you guys are enjoying. Hopefully you're not paying attention to me. You're doing something semi-useful, like I'm doing right now, and just kind of have me in the background because there's really nothing to see here. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. But I'd never even heard about Historicon until 2005. I started playing DVA as a tournament. It's like, hey, there's this tournament stuff before, and I'm not a tournament player, but I'm like, okay. And the first year I went in 2006, there was a shitload of vendors. The next year there was one or two less. There was one or two less. There was one or two less. Got to the point where there's no vendors selling the stuff that I'm interested in 15 millimeter scale. So, but one of the years, one of the vendors was selling figures by the each. And that's awesome because that's what I want, right? I want figure variety. If I'm building these guys, I don't need 12 of the same pose. I want individual guys so I can mix them up and give them a ragtag appearance of the army. So he was selling them by the each. So I'm like, that's awesome. Well, he went out of business or stopped doing it in a couple of years. And then, so there's really no reason to go to those shows, at least for me, to buy things because the internet kind of put all of that kind of out of business. But yeah. Let's see. Let me catch up. We got Tramfan. They're pushing Warhammer. Hello. They're pushing Warhammer Ancients army packs for 28 millimeter, 20 millimeter. You mean New Line is? Interesting. I didn't think Warhammer Ancients was a thing. I didn't know that it was a thing like in like 2000 or something like that before I ever got into Ancients. And all I know about Warhammer is it's a shitload of dice being thrown. That's it. I've never played it. Um, anyhow, but yeah, I would have given it a shot if they were still playing it. So, um, yeah. Oh, I'm putting you to sleep. Oh, sorry. All right, more painting, less talking. Anyhow, welcome to my living room. Come in and have a seat. We're going to take some of this white and we're going to mix it with. We still got chocolate brown live here somewhere. No, but we got. I grabbed the different brown. This is going to be werewolf fur for war paints. The Danish paints. Yeah, so I've been at this for over 2 hours now. Like I said, I don't know if you guys are finding this useful. I am, because it's kept me an excuse to uh, it's given me an excuse to stay on topic. Otherwise, I would have found something else to do. Because honestly, I don't like the solitary nature of this. Um, I would rather be doing something social. This is half social. You guys are typing stuff, and I'm trying to respond to it. So it's half social, but it's. I appreciate you guys chiming in. It makes it easier for me to stay involved in it. So, okay, another comment. Okay, what do we have here? We have Tramfan. I was going to ask about your die preferences. Are you all D6 all the way or are polyhedrals okay? And Fernando Fuentes from the old country. I like your little icon there. I'm afraid to mix miniatures of different brands. I see them very different. Okay, well, if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. You know, hey, that's the. I believe in freedom. Just because I do something doesn't mean you should do it. So, how do I feel about die preferences? Okay, prior to DBA, I was percentile all the way, two D10s, and my preference would be a black D10 with white numbers and a white D10 with black numbers for the ones. So the black D10 for the tens digit and the white D10 for the. I would mix it up. We'd play naval games and stuff like that, and I would match them. So if you're playing Italian, I would use a red and a green one, or that kind of a thing. But definitely a percentile fan. I look at this, I'm like, D6, really? That's stupid. I kid you not. I kid you not. It just seemed asinine that there's only six things. Okay. So I still kind of feel the same way. However, this is the only game I've ever played where it's not me rolling dice, it's the other person rolling one as well, and you compare them. And that is the secret. I don't think I'll play another game where it does not have that mechanism. Because what does that do? It means both people are involved. It's not like, okay, well, you go ahead and do your shooting at me. I'm going to go grab a Coke or a coffee or whatever, and I'll come back in 15 minutes. It keeps both people engaged. So if I'm attacking you and I roll like crap, the other guy could defend like crap, and nothing really happens. So that dynamic I was new to 20 years ago. And I still love it. I think that's the secret of the engagement. And that's why I play this game because one person is just as involved as the other person in every turn. Well, in the combat in every turn. So but I'm a percentile guy. Um, because it just makes sense. I mean, it makes sense because, and what I really don't like, even though I played a lot of games of it, is 2D6, the bell curve. I do not like the bell curve. I played lots of games of Squad Leader, Advanced Squad Leader, Battletech, Boxcars, Snake Eyes. It's a seven. Oh, look, a seven again. Three and four, seven. Five and two, seven. Six and one, seven. The bell curve. I don't like the bell curve because it's harder to extrapolate the percentage of what something is. Okay? So I'm a percentage guy because in your regular life, you think in percentages, or at least I do. Like, okay, that's likely to happen. Okay, well, what does that mean? 50%, 75%? It's like natural. It's like it's built in, right? At least for me. Not like, well, that's likely to happen. So what's that? 2D6, a 7 or an 8? So my preference is per percentage. If I'm designing a game from scratch, my World War II games I play are percentage. Okay? Um, DBA is not. It's 1D6. If I made Renaissance rules, I talked about, it'd be 1D6. Because it's a comparison type thing. Don't know if that answers your question, but completely. But yeah, I'm okay with 1D6, but it was weird. I would I don't have a problem with it. I really don't like the bell curve at all. It's hard to extrapolate. Okay, well it's a seven, so there's a 17% chance of. I mean, I can do the arithmetic and stuff, but it just feels wonky, you know. So just about anything's better than that. I don't like D4s at all. They're hard to pick up. I'm I did role playing games when I was 13 or 14 years old. I don't do them now. If you do them now, that's fine. I just don't. I would do them, okay? And I've mentioned to one of the people in our local game convention that I would come and play and bring my clan with me to play role playing games. But we got to have miniatures to do the spatial distance between them because I'm more interested of a of the tactics. And that's another thing that I realized. I've been a war gamer a long time, We're not all created equally. That's not what I meant to say. We're not all created the same. Okay? Some people like strategy, some people like tactics, some people like chess. I am not a chess player. I do not a big fan of strategy. I'm a tactics guy. Okay? That's what I like. I like these guys are good at this, pin those guys down, go around, throw grenades in, go in, move other guys in. That's the kind of guy I am. I like to play games like a sergeant, maybe like that. I can do the strategy stuff, but I get tuned out of you're playing a board game like perfect example would be Rise and Decline of the Third Reich. Ring any bells for you guys? Avalon Hill game. Hated it. Okay, I can play Axis and Allies and I'm fine with it, but burps and GURPS and stirps and blurps with figures with counters that don't look really good, and just not my game. There's lots of people that like that, and there's lots of different type of games that I don't mind playing games that don't have combat. I prefer games with combat because I'm a devout pacifist every day in my life. I hurt no one every day throughout my life. But I like playing violent games because it's a way to do something that you can't really do in real life. So I prefer combat games where you get to murder people. But but yeah, there's some people, and I really didn't come to the realization of that until maybe a year ago. The difference between strategy and tactics. I'm a tactics guy. Strategy is not my thing. Strategy involves like a lot of planning, and it would probably be okay if you had like a group of people that you could talk out loud with and figure all this kind of stuff out. But just like I don't like game mechanics where I'm forced to be a dick. Okay, there's many games where you are forced to be a turncoat. So you're going to have to play an asshole whether you want to or not. I just don't want to backstab people for no reason. It, that's just not how I am. Okay, I'm a vengeful son of a bitch. Okay, I don't mind going after someone if they did me wrong, but I don't believe in punishing people just because they were there. You know, that's just not my kind of game. But hey, different people are. That's why there's different kind of games for different people. So let's see. The rules I'm working on now are opposed rolls. Roll high versus opponent with larger dice for better weaponry skill, etc. Yeah. Yep. Tramfan, I use percentile for RPGs. Perfect. Rapman, 0921. Is that your birthday? September 21st? What do you use to affix the mini to your painting token? I was going to use sticks for each fig, but I'm about to paint a couple of armies for a friend and need to assemble line them. So I use super glue, okay? Because I don't want them to pop out in the middle of my painting. And all you do with an X-Acto knife is you come in under the edge and pop it off, and you're done. It doesn't glue that well because I epoxy all my figures down. So I actually came across one other person. He is an excellent painter. He's one of my favorite painters, and he does the same thing. I even told him I can't believe I've ran into somebody else who super glues their figures onto. Now I don't put a lot of super glue, just a dot on there, and some of it oozes out the side. But yeah, I've been using super glue. It works for me. Some people use PVA. PVA seems to be really popular in the UK. I don't use PVA for shit. I don't like the idea of getting something wet and it releases. Not that I'm spilling water on things, but hey, whatever works for you. Yeah, I don't use PVA for anything. Some people glue them down to PVA. Some use them that little mastic stuff that's like clay that you can use to put posters and stuff on your wall. Um, there's a brand name for it. I have some of it floating around here somewhere. Um, it looks like this is a piece of foam, but it looks like this, almost in the same color. You know, almost like silly putty, but not silly putty. Some people use that. I've just always used super glue, and I know I don't have to worry about them. Okay, I don't want to drop a guy on the ground, so that's what I use. Use what you like. Okay, right. Fernando Fuentes. How many DBA armies do you have? What is your favorite DBA book of the four? Um, I have about 24 DBA armies, something like that. My favorite book. All right. Let me start off. You know what? I'm going to come right back. I need some more coffee. Can't you tell I'm kind of fading? I'm going to be right back and we'll go get right back into that. Okay, we're back. We're going to do it in opposite order. Okay? I actually get this question asked rather frequently. I think it's weird that the books are organized the way that they are, that are even called books, but I understand why, based from earlier rule sets. My least favorite book. You guys should know this because I don't have a single army from that book. Book one. Why is it my least favorite book? Well, wargaming for me has always been historical, and it has always been about learning about things. I know that seems weird. It is gaming, but you're kind of inadvertently learning things without even knowing it. Isn't that cool? There's so little information on book one period stuff. You either have Homer, engravings on steles, which, if you don't know what a stele is, it's like those monuments that they make describing Hammurabi was here and he did this to the other people and, that kind of stuff. Sometimes they have pictures, sometimes they don't. The engravings they have on old ancient Egyptian places, other hearsays, and the Old Testament. That's pretty much what there is for book one. On top of that, my two favorite things to paint are flags and shields. And what I mean by shields is heraldry. None of that in any of the book one armies. Okay. So, another thing is, it's getting a little better, is there's not a whole lot of variety in manufacturers for book one armies. Now, I understand you could probably make a whole bunch of armies that look the same. Like you could probably do Neo-Babylonians. Neo-Babylonians and Assyrians look similar, and you could do some of the really early, like the Kassite Babylonians would be very similar to like Urartu, or I'm just rattling off names here that I remember. But there's not defined reason to build another army so that you can make them look significantly different in book one. For me, as a figure painter, playing the armies, absolutely no problem with them. They're a hoot. Okay, a lot of them have what I call crappy troop types, which are a lot of fun as long as the other guy has those type of things as well. Low numbers, really cool. Okay, so it's not these armies aren't very good, so that's why I don't want to play them. It's they're not exciting to collect for me. Okay, I have two book one armies to paint. I have Assyrians because I bought them so freaking cheap from that guy that I mentioned earlier that he was selling one figure at a time. I think I probably bought the whole army for like $7. And Lydians. Okay, that's Croesus and the guys that end up fighting the Persians and that kind of stuff. So they're a hoplite type army. So hoplite-ish or proto-hoplite type army. Haven't painted either one of them because I've got to pull too many things out of my ass, especially with the standpoint of the Lydians. Like, what shield designs do I do? Well, I either totally make things up or kind of make them look very similar to the little bit that's known on the vases. So I'm just not very motivated to do book one. So book one, definitely my least favorite army. I like combined arms armies. Because of that, I would say my second least favorite army is book two. Because book two doesn't have a lot of shooters. And I'm not saying shooters are all important, but they do lend themselves to creating an other. You got heavy foot, you got light foot, you've got heavy cavalry, you got elephants, you have shooters. There's not a lot of shooters in book two. There's some armies that do have them, but for the most part, and again, we're not talking The Indians, okay, the Indians have a crap ton of shooters, you know, but they're not as combined arms ish in book two, and a lot of it is Romans versus the world. You end up getting, I mean, yes, there are other armies in there, but a lot of it is geared towards Romans versus the world, and there's nothing wrong with Romans, but it gets a little old. So what are we left with? Book three and book four. Between those two, I would say that I actually like book three better because not much is known. Now, I'm going to put a condition on that. I like the Asian stuff, not too fond of the European stuff. Because I don't care for, I'm going to catch hell for this if the right people. I, as a history guy, it's a little annoying, and as an English speaker, it's a really annoying that some types of history has way too much emphasis put on it, and some history, I'm talking military history, is almost forgotten. The Asian stuff's almost forgotten. Now, why is it? A lot of people aren't interested in it. A lot of those Asian civilizations were brutal from the standpoint of we don't want everybody to find out all the shit that we did wrong, so let's burn all the books. I mean, there's that goes on with any civilization, but it seems to be extreme in the East, like the first emperor of China, that kind of stuff, and particularly the Chinese. That doesn't mean I don't like the Chinese. Quite the contrary. I love the Chinese type of armies, but a lot of the histories available is a lot of the history during the Dark Age period focuses on what happens in Britain during that time period, which, in my opinion, is oh so boring. Now, some of you guys that live in the UK probably think otherwise. Hey, I'm gonna condition it. I live in the United States, and I don't like American history. It's boring as shit. Okay, so it can't say that I'm knocking the UK. I got no problem with the UK. I just think that history just doesn't interest me. You know, it's very too many of the troop interactions are too similar to each other. I prefer conflicts that are civilizations that are dramatically different. Okay, that's my condition on it. So that's the problem with stuff in book three. A lot of it is Dark Age England stuff, which I'm not particularly interested at all. Okay. And like I said, I don't like American history. And you know the reason I say that I don't like American history? I like there's much more. There's not enough wars here. And I mean that from a standpoint as that's a good thing, but I mean it from a standpoint of, we're doing military history, so I'm interested in conflicts. There's a lot more conflicts in Europe and Asia than there are here, so that's a lot more interesting. American history when I had it in school was all about like, well, we don't have enough wars, so let's learn about laws. Okay, bore me. I'm not interested in that. So I'm not an American history fan at all. And a lot of it focuses on time periods which I don't think are particularly interesting, like this Civil War, mainly the type of dress and stuff like that. I'm not a Civil War guy. I'm not a Napoleonics guy. Um, so anyhow, now that I've pissed everyone off from every single part of the world, hey, nobody should get pissed off. Everybody enjoys certain kind of things. That's why there's that thing. Now, the problem I have with some of the Asian history is if I can't pick up stuff and read it because I don't understand the alphabet. I can pick up something in German, I guess, and struggle with it because I can recognize some of the characters, but the Far East stuff is that's hopeless. So that's unfortunate. But we are definitely Asian friendly in our army selections. But now book four, I like book four. I would like book five even more if there was a book five. Big fan of book five. That's what my rule set's going to be called. Tony's book five DBA army game, which would be Italian wars all the way up till the beginning of the 30 Years' War. That would be the time period I would want to do. But I do like book four a lot. But book four has a lot of bow, knight, blade interactions that kind of gets maybe all the same in a lot of them. Artillery. A lot of the armies are the same. I think the armies in book 3 are the most varied of any book, and that's why I like them. So I would say book 3, and guys start using flags in book 3. Gotta do that. So in that order, book 3, my favorite, book 4, then book 2, then book 1. Hope that answers my long-winded way of answering a question. Okay, so Parsival, laugh out loud. Just thinking of all the new D&D stuff with is all character building and plots, etc. When we played it, we usually boiled it down to hit it with an axe. Yeah. Rapman, and now a word from our sponsors. Yeah. I don't have any sponsors. I don't want to have any sponsors. Like I said, I wouldn't do this for money unless I could do this as my job, which, I have a little bit more overhead than that. And I like being honest. If somebody makes, I don't want to talk about things that suck, okay? But if there's a product that I really like, Litco stands, folks. I want to tell you guys about it because it's something I firmly believe in. But they don't need to send me a T-shirt or a hat or something like that. I'm not interested in that. I just want to share, what I've enjoyed, doing that kind of thing. So, yeah, no sponsors. There's a little bit of advertising on. I tried to keep it to a minimum. I really had no interest in doing the advertising on the YouTube. The only reason I think I even allowed some of it is, and hopefully you guys are only getting the advertising at the beginning before you start watching stuff. There's a history guy I recently listened to, and he has almost like a podcast on there. And damn it, if every 6 minutes there's not some kind of annoying ad that makes me lose track of where he's at. Hopefully you guys are only getting ads at the beginning and very few and far between. Is the way I looked at it is maybe I have to make it worthwhile for YouTube to be able to advertise and make some money on what I'm doing on here so that I can have more visibility and upload. Like, I'm filming in some insane quality of video. I did a speed test on this, and I have insane speed on my phone. But this stuff, like when I go back and watch it, is only 720p, which sucks. 720p is terrible for showing you guys any kind of painting stuff. So I figure, okay, there's people out there streaming in 1080, and I know that they don't have the signal that I do. So what's going on? Maybe they have more viewers, and YouTube allows to give them more. I've searched and searched and searched, and I can't come up with an answer. I'm just going to keep plugging forward, and hopefully this will get better. I'll get a better quality feed there in the future. Hang in with me, folks. We're going to keep doing this. So, but I want to. I apologize that this isn't viewable in a better quality. I don't know what I can do. The insane speed that I have here. I mean, it's over up and down. I think the lowest number is like 40 megabits. My upload is 40 megabits and my download is like over 60 here at home on my signal on the phone. I did a speed test on my internet, and my download speed is around 5 or 6 instead of 60, and my upload is under 1. My DSL is horrible here, so I can't connect to DSL and do it. You guys wouldn't even get a 240 quality feed. So we're just going to keep plugging forward and just hope it gets better. Say a little prayer for me, and hopefully it gets better. But yeah. So that's why I figured, okay, well, maybe that's the secret, because I'm not a technology guy. I mean, I'm a painter. This is what I do. I don't like technology because there's no incentive to learn it, because unless you do it for a living, and a month later it's already changed. So if I do this as a hobby. I don't have time to keep up with, well, now we do it like this. Well, now this version is like this. I'm like, come on, dude, stop moving the football, Stop moving the football. But some people like technology. Just got the phone upgrade. you watched any of my other videos, I'm always complaining about the export time. We just put out a 3 hour long video, so twice as long as any other video has been out there, and it was able to process it. So the difference is between 4 gig of RAM and 12. So that is good news for you guys. There's definitely going to be more videos coming. So, and just so you know, we enjoy making the videos. We don't want to play games not filmed. We really don't. Um, there's so many fun things, insane, zany, hilarious, ironic things that happen that it's a shame not to share that with people. Okay, so we love it. So okay, so we did some boots. We let's look at this guy's running like a. He's running a cloth thing on the back. Let's see what colors we haven't used. We got a red. We got another reddish type color. Well, that means this guy's not going to be red. What else do we have? Oh, the guy in the command stand's got like a blue. How about a green one? Let's do green. Let's do green. Come over here. Greens are weird. Vallejo greens are really weird. They're either lumpy or watery, or maybe a little bit of both. Even with the little bead into there, mix them up. So that's another thing. This is another thing I tried on a whim. Paid off big dividends. Army Painter mixing balls. Okay? And they're $6 for 100 of them. And it seems like they're overpriced, but it makes a difference in some of them. Now, I didn't go and open every single bottle and dump one in. I just kind of put them in as I need them. Like, oh, you're misbehaving. Bam! Take a ball! And it makes it definitely workable. So, yeah, that's good. So. Rapman, how about the plethora of Chinese armies in Book 2? Yeah, I have one of them, the Terracotta Warriors. The problem with them is, and talk about an army that I'm interested in, you know about the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, right? That pseudo-Homeric tale-ish type thing. Love Romance of the Three Kingdoms stuff. Okay? I played all the Dynasty Warriors games, not all of them, but many of them. So I know who all those guys are. I had the Total War Romance of the Three Kingdoms game that was the first game that I bought when I got the computer. Super complicated. But it's not the people's names because I know who the guys are. But and they do make now some figures that is it Lurkio? Lurkio comes out with figures for them. So I was tempted to buy them, but I just can't buy any more figures. I've got plenty of different things to work on. But I like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Mitch has Han that he bought. He needs to send them to his painter so we can get them going. I have Terracotta Warriors, which is the Chin, Book 2, 4A, I believe. What else is in Book 2? Oh, the Northern and Southern Dynasties Chinese, the first army that in 2.2 I won the national tournament with. Yeah, but they changed that army significantly, so I can't use them anymore. I could still play with a 2.2 army, but who wants to? I don't want to. They changed those guys significantly. So I got this pretty Chinese elephant that I used up, and I couldn't. I can't use him now. Like I said, I could, but that's going to end up getting morphed into something else. So that was the whole reason I built that army. Is like, oh, I want an elephant that's Chinese. That's cool, you know. So what else is in Book 2 that's Chinese? Some crazy armies that nobody makes figures for. But that's the ones I kind of want to morph together. So yeah, there's some Chinese armies in Book 2, definitely. The Koreans, my Koguryo Koreans. Book 2, it used to be 76. I don't know if they added another army in there and messed up all the numbering system of the Book 2. I don't remember if Book 2 was one of those. Yeah, Koguryo Koreans. That's the first tournament I won with here in Florida. Those guys. Those were miniatures made by a French sculptor who is no longer with us, named Alain Tuller. And that army changed also significantly from 2.2 to 3.0. So Unfortunately, you probably aren't going to see those guys ever. They painted up really well, but it's not even close. It's not even close to do that. So, um, also the sculpting metal, that the metal that those figures are cast in is very soft, almost like the older Essex. So the spears end up getting really bendy. So I really like how that army looks. So I'm probably just going to leave them alone. And luckily I played about 50 games with them. But yeah, I did like that army. I love the Asian. And part of the reason I like the Asian armies is nobody uses them, or they're not frequently used. I mean, who the hell wants to see another freaking Carthaginian army? I mean, like everybody uses that army. Just because they know who Hannibal is. I probably will never have a Carthaginian army. I want to do obscure things that nobody does. Hey, there's a hint. The next army I'm going to do is going to be kind of obscure. It's definitely going to be obscure. It's definitely going to be a not common army. Which one of it is remains to be seen. But it's going to be something that's not common for sure. Okay, so we've got some little flanging on this thing. Let's see if we can do. Is red a good color for that? Yeah, I don't have anything that has red. The red edges. I think flanging is the correct term. Sometimes I can't think of the right word on the spot. This is unrehearsed, completely unrehearsed. So what are we looking at? We're looking at over 2.5 hours. Got 6 people sticking with me. I appreciate it, folks. Thanks for keeping me motivated. That's the best thing you guys can do is just stay in there with me. Okay. Okay. Fernando Fuentes. What part of you're from Spain? I would take it. The old country. What part of Spain are you from? We thought I've never been to Europe. We thought we were actually going to get a chance to go this year, but that didn't happen. No traveling this year, so I'm afraid things may be this way for a long time. So I may have to go to Spain with the Google Mobile. Virtually. But what is my nemesis army? He wants to know, what is the army you do not want to face? What is your nemesis? That's a good question. I don't know if I have one. I don't know that I have one. Because in DBA, there's always an anti-army to another one. In other words, there's an army out there that would just whoop the ass of everybody else. Now, with that said, and the first one that comes to mind in this is, there's some armies that when I face them, I seem to have a hell of a time beating. Okay, so maybe that's your question. But mostly not with any, like let's say for instance, I have an army that I have trouble beating, but I have to fight them and I get to pick who comes in up against them. That's a very different situation. But what army is my nemesis been when we have set up an even style battle against them? You're probably going to be surprised. It's the Numidians. When I face the Numidians, I have about a 25%. I've looked at my stats. I have a 25% chance of winning. Now, I'm not showing up with my Burgundians with a shitload of bow. Okay? I'm not even showing up with any bow. Okay, so that being said, because I'm using another light type army against the Numidians have beaten me frequently. So right off the bat, that would probably be my nemesis army, without much thinking. But again, that's me using my Armenians or using other armies that when I played Carthage against them, that kind of stuff. Stuff that's equivalent to them in a balanced type game. Not okay, the Numidians are coming, pick your army. Well, it won't even be close. I'll wipe the floor with them. But then that's not really a balanced game. And that's the thing about DBA is you can. Now let me quantify that. If somebody brought Numidians to an open event and I knew it was an open event, I wouldn't have any trouble with them because I'm always going to take at least 3 bowmen. given a choice in my army. Um, and preferably four. I like putting two on each flank. That's how I play. I tend to set up balanced. You guys watch any of my videos, you may have picked that up. I like to not have a plan. I like to kind of set up strong where I can take things from any single, assuming there's not dominant terrain that, well, I'm not going to put knights over there because they're just going to go in the woods. But I tend to set up balanced, let the other guy make a mistake, and just kind of go on the go with the flow, okay, and be a little reactionary, and aggressive with like a wall of heavy foot and bow fire against mounted. That's my technical. Technically, that's how I like to play. I like to call it Wall of Doom. So I have this wall that you just can't sit there and continue stand up. They're going to shoot you and disorder you, whatever. And I'm going to come at you when you're disordered and pick my advantage. That is my preferred way to play. Okay, I tend to not take risks when I play, almost like if it was a real game. That's just kind of my playing style. Um, Maybe the opposite of Luke, if you watched him play. But Numidians would be my nemesis army if you would go back and look at that. Mitch has won a lot with them, and when I used to play Rich a lot, Rich Goss, he loves the Numidians, and they're all over the place, and that's kind of cool because I would call them a not very good army. They're not definitely was an army somebody would think that would be like a power army or anything like that. Um, Again, they're an army I would never paint because they have two things I do not like about painting an army. They have no flags. I don't think they look cool. I mean, armies that have a lot of guys that are bareheaded are boring. It because not having a helmet is something else you don't paint that kind of makes all the figures kind of look the same. Okay, so nothing against Numidians, just saying that that is a reason, and lots of people have them. So, like for instance, I would never paint 100 Years War English. Why? Everybody has them. Okay, so there's no, even though they'd probably be fun to paint, they would look great. They're going to play a lot like my Burgundians. Um, but I think Mitch has two armies of 100 Years War English. He bought them like at a flea market, or Mitch has one and Luke got the other one. There's not an incentive for me to build that army because somebody already has it. I'd rather build an army no one has. Even better, an army no one's interested in. Okay, because then you don't have to worry about stepping on each other's toes. So, um, but yeah, I would say my Nemesis army, based on my win loss records, is would have to be Numidians. They're pretty sorry because my win loss record, I think overall games is like, and I'm almost up to 2,000 games. Is sitting around 55%, 56%. Um, so yeah, I've lost hundreds of games. I've won hundreds of games too. So anyhow, Numidians. That's what I'm going to go with. Not what you would expect. But again, it's quantified by, I'm not fighting them in opens. Okay. Um, and that can be a powerful army if they get the pips. If they don't get the pips, they are sitting ducks, especially if they're facing some bowfire. Because that's the problem with light horses. Light horse just can't deal with bows. Um, I think DBA does not represent light horse very well. It doesn't represent light horse very well against foot. I think they're represented okay against knights because light horse, and Mitchell agree with me. We've had this conversation many times. I'll take light horse against knights all day long. They're perfectly fine. Um, the fact that they quick kill the knight is evened up by their number being low, and the knight can advances or pursues after combat, that sort of thing. I think they're evenly matched, all right, but the the bows um, against light horse can just rip them to shreds. It's already a 4-2, and you haven't even doubled up on one. So now you got a 4-1. The thing about bows that's so powerful is you figure you've got a limited amount of die rolls you're going to roll, okay? And you're going to roll some ones in there. If you roll a one on a bow fire and somebody's not shooting back, no harm, no foul, right? You don't die. It's just you didn't do anything against the element. So there, you have this opportunity in shooting elements to throw your ones away and it not be catastrophic some of the time. I don't know if that makes any sense. So that gives now. Obviously, you don't get to pick when the ones come in. You could roll the one when the bows go into close combat against a spear and you're screwed. But you don't get to pick when they come in. But at least there's an opportunity of being able to throw them in. Like for instance, let's take knights. Okay, you can't afford to roll a one with a knight. If you go into close combat with a knight and roll a one, you're probably screwed. Okay. If you get shot at by bow and you have a knight and you roll a one, you're probably screwed. There's no opportunity with a knight to throw a one and get away with it. With a spearman or a blade, you can get away with it because their number is pretty big. But a knights against foot, there are three. Rolling a one, now you're a four, and there's guys that quick kill them and so forth. So, from that standpoint, bows are a safer option than knights for sure with rolling ones. Does that make any sense? Maybe it does if it's something that you really kind of verbalize and talk things out logically. But that's been my experience. Bows allow you to throw a bunch of ones away. Same thing with Saloy. Saloy, you throw the Saloy to cover a flank, and he goes in just so you don't get a -1 on that one side, and he's engaging with a spear, and you roll a one. The spear doesn't kill him; he just flees. Now you got to make sure you're not towards the edge of the board or what have you. But that's things you can control. Just don't go towards the edge of the board. We tend to not corner camp or edge camp, or even go after camps for that matter. Somebody's got to deploy really poorly for us to go after a camp, or that's not one of the things that we normally do, because in going after a camp you get out of command and control, and you end up having an issue. But all right, well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks for you guys joining me, and anyhow, we will catch you guys next time. Thanks for staying with me. All right, see you guys later. Bye bye.